good evening and welcome to tonight's broadcast. I'm Victor Moyakane.
And I'm Brenda Zederadidu. Glad that you're watching us tonight, and we have a lot lined up for you, including Engine Behind the Pine tonight. We shall be talking to Henry Mureithi, who's the chairperson of the Commission Sign Language Interpreter in Kenya.
Right, and that's something that is actually quite important because there's a large percentage of people who rely on sign language interpreters for their daily dealings in business and in life in general. It's something that you might want to watch out for. An interview between my co-presenter Brenda and this particular gentleman.
But first, let's have a look at the news highlights. No trace yet. Search for the missing plane continues around Nyambini area with bad weather hampering the exercise. Is it a reprieve? Labour courts suspend directive requiring all government accounting officers to take leave for vetting. And Mount Elgon still under lock. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i extends the curfew order.
Right, now the search and rescue efforts for FlySAC's flight F5YCAC, which disappeared from the radar on Tuesday evening, have been called off until tomorrow due to bad weather. Now the rescue operations, which were to be conducted by a multi-agency team in the Aberdare Ranges, where the aircraft is believed to have gone down, were hampered by heavy rains. The ill-fated plane from Kitale went missing at around 5 p.m. yesterday with 10 passengers on board. The Cessna plane belonging to FlySAC and flying from Kitale was expected to land at JKIA at 5 p.m. on Tuesday and was reportedly last spotted at 40 nautical miles from Nairobi, flying at 11,000 feet above sea level. On Wednesday morning, a multi-agency team was assembled from the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, the Aircraft Investigation Department, the Kenya Wildlife Service and the National Police Service to concentrate search efforts in the Aberdare Ranges of Nyandarua and Murang'a counties. However, bad weather made it impossible to access the location where the plane is believed to have crashed. Speaking at the command center at the Kinangop Sub-County headquarters, the National Disaster Management Unit head, Pius Masai, revealed that so far aerial teams have failed to spot the aircraft.
The main challenge for us is a bad weather, and we have 3 choppers right now which are conducting aerial survey, and ground operations are here on standby in various locations because as we are aware that the area of the search is a wide stretch area that is between Nyandarua and Murang'a counties within Aberdares, and is a wide stretch area, and if we allow people just to go randomly, they'll get tired before the main work. So as far as we've been told that the weather is a challenge to us, we're making use of the aircraft. Once they locate for us areas that we feel is
At the same time, FlySAC's director, George Kivindio, remained guarded over any details surrounding the incident, calling for patience from members of the public. An information desk has been set up at Western Hotel in Nairobi, where relatives of the 8 passengers and 2 crew members who were on board the ill-fated plane can get updates on the search mission.
I promise to come back to you as soon as I get official communication from the government. Meanwhile, bear with us. We are hoping everything is going to be okay. People on board and the aircraft. There's been a lot of speculation from the social media, and I have no respect for social media, and I'm just saying that as Kivinjo. Bear with us. I'll give you a firm statement as soon as we are ready. I'm not going to hide anything. If it's bad news, I'll tell you it's bad news. If it's good news, we share this and we'll move on with life. Life must continue.
Meanwhile, 11 Kenya Red Cross personnel involved in a road accident while rushing to Njambini for the rescue mission are receiving treatment at the JM Kariuki Hospital in Olkalou. In other news, the Employment and Labour Relations Court has suspended a circular by the head of Public Service, Joseph Kinyua, directing all heads of procurement and accounting units in government to step aside.
Now, in a petition filed by renowned activist Ukio Mutata, High Court Judge Onesimus Macau ruled that the notice does not specify the violation made by the affected officers in their respective jurisdiction. Eric Begon reports.
In a bid to clean up runaway corruption from the government, the head of Public Service Joseph Kinyua had on Monday issued a circular ordering all heads of procurement and accounting units in ministries, departments, agencies and state corporations to step aside with immediate effect. By asking the affected officers to go home pending fresh vetting, Kinyua had further directed them to submit personal information to the Office of the Head of Public Service by Friday 8th without failure.
As an initial step, all heads of procurement and accounts in government ministries, departments, agencies, and parastatals will undergo fresh vetting, including polygraph testing, to determine their integrity and suitability. Those who shall fail the vetting will stand suspended.
This directive has however been put on hold after renowned activist Ukio Mutata went to court protesting the move by the government. In his petition, Mutata argued that there was no evidence linking the affected officers to any wrongdoing in their spheres of influence.
The issues I raised basically are issues of law in terms of how reasonable that circular was. I'm also questioning if the president said people should be vetted. The president did not say people should be sacked. And vetting does not require people to vacate office. You can be vetted as you are in office.
Prayers which were acknowledged by Employment and Labour Relations Court Judge Onesimus Macau. In his ruling, Justice Macau said there are genuine issues touching on the affected officers which require clarity. The affected civil servants were particularly required to provide information on their assets, liabilities and previous record of service. The time given for this endeavor, according to Justice Macau, was however too short. Eric Biegon reporting for Channel 1 News.
All right, meanwhile, at the pre-trial conference for the 42 suspects charged with the loss of 468 million shillings at the National Youth Service has been adjourned until 20th of next month.
The Anti-Corruption Court Chief Magistrate Douglas Ogoti suspended the proceedings after the defense lawyers claimed not to have been served with relevant documents used by the prosecution in the case.
Now, meanwhile, two of the suspects in the NY scandal have moved to the High Court to challenge the court's decision to deny them bail. Ben Chumba gives us the details.
The much-awaited pre-trial conference for over 40 suspects in the 468 million shilling scandal at the National Youth Service hit a snag after lawyers representing the accused informed the court that they are yet to be furnished with all relevant documents used by the prosecution against their clients. The lawyers argued that proceeding to fix hearing dates for the case without serving them with the documents will only serve as prejudice to their clients' right to a fair trial.
As we address you, we as it were are defense lawyers who are literally naked before court, because we are purporting to represent all these people without basic documents, and we are expected, Your Honor, to participate in a pre-trial without basic documents. And permit me, put me on record that the only thing all of us have are charge sheets. Some of my colleagues don't even have the charge sheets, but we also do have affidavits, which was given a few minutes before we started making bail application.
Anti-Corruption Court Chief Magistrate Douglas Ogoti adjourned the pre-trial conference until June 20th and ordered the suspects to collect the documents sought by the defense team from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations beginning Wednesday next week. The development coming as two suspects in the NY scandal moved to the High Court to challenge the Anti-Corruption Court's decision to deny them bail. James Twitter, a director at Fastlink Suppliers, and Yvonne Mwanza won the decision by Chief Magistrate Douglas Ogoti overturned on grounds that he failed to uphold the presumption of innocence until proof of guilt. In a certificate of urgency, the two argue they require medical treatment for high blood pressure and a heart condition, respectively. The Anti-Corruption Court on Tuesday denied all the accused persons involved in the 468 million shilling scam bail and directed them be remanded until their trial is concluded, since the offences are grave and affect the nation's economy. Ben Chumba, reporting for Channel 1 NewsHour.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has defended itself from claims that it has no clause to fight corruption. Now,
EACC Chief Executive Officer Halake Wako says the graft agency has made tremendous progress in the war against graft, urging for more support to help the commission equip its arsenal.
Now, the commission, which appeared before the Senate on Wednesday, blamed weaknesses in the legal and institutional frameworks for the slow pace in dealing with runaway corruption.
Over the last few weeks, cases of corruption have towered headlines in every available media in the country, with claims that the country was losing billions of shillings to greedy individuals. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has stood accused of failing to rein in on the runaway vice, despite galloping millions in taxpayers' money. But the Commission has come out to defend itself, saying weak laws were curtailing its war against corruption.
Sometimes some lack of necessary powers to compel public bodies to comply with the recommendations or even sometimes the outputs of the systems review reports that we do is one of the impediments that we see.
EACC is also inducting the public of tolerating corruption and unethical conduct, arguing that without public support it cannot effectively deliver on its mandate.
Na si lazima kila mara kuna taasisi fulani ama serikali kuu lazima iendeleze miradi ya hali kama ya kupigana na ufisadi. Mkenya mwenyewe ana wajibu wake.
The commission said it was putting focus on asset recovery, even as it accused the judiciary of dragging its feet in prosecuting corruption cases.
We have this year, 2016-17, if you look at 2013-14, we traced 7.2 billion. In 2014-15, 3.8. This particular year is still ongoing, and we have above the 7 billion that I've already talked about, and the year is not concluded, and therefore we expect in our annual report to report a higher figure for this.
Chief Executive Officer Halake Wako says the commission is currently investigating 10 sitting governors as it moves to tame graft in the counties.
If there is any kind of politics which is being cooked up to disparage the work of the commission, that's up to the individual who is thinking like that. But as far as the commission is concerned, we are working, we are productive, we are producing.
But even as EACC insists it was working round the clock to slay the ghost of corruption, a section of leaders have called for its disbandment, arguing that it has proven ineffective in the war against graft.
EACC has been funded by government for all those years. We now need to come together and ask ourselves, what has EACC to show for all the time it has been in existence?
The problem with us as Kenyans is when we are in crisis, we like pointing fingers at one another. We don't even remember the good that people have done.
For Channel 1 News, I am Edward Kabasa.
Now, 6 General Service Unit officers have lost their lives after the truck hit an improvised explosive device unit in Liboi.
The 3 officers are admitted in hospital, 1 in critical condition. Now, the officers were on a routine patrol when the incident happened.
The tragedy occurred as Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i extended the dusk to dawn curfew in Mount Elgon by a month.
The General Service officers were on a routine patrol along the volatile Liboi border in northeastern Kenya when their truck hit an improvised explosive device suspected to have been planted by Al-Shabaab militants. The powerful explosion ripped the back of the truck, killing 6 officers, leaving 3 others with serious wounds. One of the officers is said to be in critical condition, while 2 others are in stable condition. The officers were part of a joint security team patrolling the Kenya-Somali border following a spate of attacks blamed on Al-Shabaab militia. Meanwhile, Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has extended the dusk to dawn curfew in Mount Elgon. Matiang'i, who met security and county officers from Kakamega and Vihiga in the region, lauded the ongoing operation, which he said has led to the arrest of 3 suspected criminals. Matiang'i later toured Busia border point, where he directed multi-agency teams deployed in all border points to be extra vigilant.
Illegal importation of goods, contraband, and so on. We want to see that we sort this problem out completely by working with our border points and ensuring that we address the challenges of government. We are now determined to deal with white-collar crime in the country, whether it is corruption, trade in illicit goods, all efforts that people are making to evade tax, contraband goods, and so on. We are going to fight this very hard.
His remarks comes a day after thousands of kilograms of counterfeit sugar and cooking oil were recovered by security agencies in Nairobi Eastleigh Estate. Anthony Kaikai for Channel 1 News.
Now, the National Assembly Education Committee toured the Moi Girls High School as they began investigations into the alleged rape incident at the school.
And in a new twist, the committee questioned the likelihood that the girl had a prior arrangement with the alleged rapist, and the act was not rape but consensual.
Now, they also poked holes in the school's security system, which they say could have contributed to the incident. My colleague Brenda Zeda with more.
Elgon dormitory, and specifically the washroom lobby. This is where 5 days ago an alleged rape incident is reported to have occurred. A man who up to now remains faceless and is a fugitive of the law. This E5 cubicle, situated a few steps from the rape scene, was the victim's sleeping place. The victim is said to have gone to the washroom where the alleged attacker pounced on her.
When I got there, squatted and got hold of the 2 girls, my first question was, have you bathed? She told me no. So at the point which she dressed without having bathing, that one we could not connect. We did not know. Because if she had told me she had bathed, then maybe we could now go to the next question, when? We could not be able to tell you at what point the girl bathed. But when she told me that she had not, now that we could not comprehend at what point she dressed up.
But a fact-finding mission by the National Assembly Education Committee would poke holes into the narrative, questioning why the students in Elgon dormitory failed to raise a distress call despite them having an alarm point in the vicinity.
There is a bell, yes, and so I will even ring it. It will ring.
No. But why couldn't they use a bell that day?
We cannot tell.
Did they scream?
They did not scream.
They did not.
They did not.
For instance, they argued the distance from the dormitory to the matron's room was just a few meters away, and yet the matron did not hear any commotion until 5 a.m. Saturday when students woke up to shower.
Normally I could expect the students to yell very hard to the extent that everybody in the compound could know.
It also took me to surprise that these girls did not yell. Even those that were accustomed by this man in the washrooms and told to go back to sleep did not yell. And when I asked one of them why that happened, she told me, Mwalimu, we were too traumatized. We could not even think of yelling. When told to go and sleep, we were just going, covering ourselves in our bed and sleeping.
This sparked queries on the possibility that the alleged rapist was not a stranger to the girl.
A stranger coming to take a girl out of this bed with that distance is a bit unimaginable.
Why the girl?
What I know, what I feel, it was consent.
Unless it's consent.
Yeah.
And well organized.
Yeah, well organized.
The school administration was also put on the spot over the glaring security lapses.
The security guard, could it not be sensible for this lady to be told that while you're guarding this dormitory, these are the 2 danger areas, the exterior entrances. If anything, she ought to have been at the main entrance, unless you want to tell us that she also guards the other dormitories. Do you have guards for every dormitory?
She guards all the dormitories.
All of them?
Parents are expected to elect a new PTA on Thursday after the dissolution of the former PTA owing to the incident.
But even as members of the National Assembly Education Committee and investigative authorities continue to piece together information that could lead to the arrest of the person behind the rape allegation that happened here at Moi Girls High School, Nairobi on Saturday, one question still remains: was it a teacher of the school who has been employed by the Teacher Service Commission, or was it a trainer of the students when it comes to co-curricular activities? Well, this question can only be answered once a report is released by the investigative authorities this month. Brenda Zadaradido reporting for Channel 1 News in Nairobi.
Right. Now, the first batch of the specialized Cuban doctors, or rather Cuban specialist doctors, jetted into the country in the wee hours of the morning as the government moves to fully implement its agenda on affordable healthcare.
Now, the 50 doctors from Cuba arrived amid controversy with local doctors protesting their recruitment.
Yeah, now the other 50 doctors are expected to arrive in the country on Thursday.
The plane ferrying the Cuban doctors touched down on Kenyan soil just a few minutes after midnight at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. At hand to welcome the doctors was Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, a member of Council of Governors Health Committee and Kisumu Governor. Nyong'o was part of the entourage that joined President Uhuru Kenyatta in his trip to Cuba, where the deal was struck.
We have received the first batch of 50 doctors whom you have seen walk out of here. We will also be expecting the next 50 batch on Thursday evening as we aim for achievement of universal health care. It's important that we are able to get service as close to the people as we can. We will be taking them through a 2-week induction program, preparing them for the role that they are going to play in our health sector.
The doctors are expected to undergo a 2-week induction program before they are posted to work across the counties. Each county will get at least 2 specialized doctors.
Doctors that have come, these are really experienced doctors. They are specialists, as we have said before, and they are going to go and fill in gaps that exist in our health system. We will be distributing them to the counties where they will be providing service to wananchi. As we aim for achievement of universal health care, it's important that we are able to get service as close to the people as we can.
National and county government signed a deal that will see the national government pay the salaries while the county government foot the bill for accommodation and transport, a case in which Kenyan doctors had challenged the recruitment of the Cuban doctors in court flopped after the Labour Relations Court declined to stop their arrival in the country. The doctors had argued they had not been subjected to a competitive process to determine their suitability. Linus Moshigadi for Channel 1 News.
Now over to news just in. Apparently earlier we did broadcast in this very bulletin that the disaster management officials or the search and rescue officials at Njambini in Kinangop had actually called off the search and rescue process as a result of bad weather and postponed it to 6 in the morning tomorrow. Now the government in form of the Principal Secretary for Transport, Professor Paul Maringa, has just held a press conference a few moments ago denying this and actually asserting that rescue operations are ongoing but are hampered by bad weather.
Now, the Principal Secretary at the same time, that is Professor Paul Maringa, as my colleague has said, says that the search and rescue operations that commenced on Tuesday are ongoing, though hampered by bad weather. Just repeating exactly what you've said.
Exactly.
So that's the latest details.
This is in contradiction, of course, to the story that we'd aired earlier. On the one hand, the people on the ground say they called off the search, but now the government says the search isn't yet called off until tomorrow. Take a look.
The search and rescue operations that commenced yesterday resumed at 6 a.m. this morning. The focus of the search is concentrated in the Aberdare ranges between Nyandarua, and Moranga counties, which are around 11,000 feet above sea level. This is only 2,000 feet below the peak of Mount Kenya, so it's very high. The government has set up a command post at Njambini Primary School to coordinate the search and rescue efforts. The Ministry of Transport's Air Accident Investigation Department and KCA are working together with Kenya Wildlife Service, the Kenya Air Force, Kenya Police, Kenya Forest Service, and other state organs to coordinate the search. The search and rescue efforts have been hampered by rainfall and limited visibility due to the fog. You recognize the Aberdares mountain ranges are very high. It is raining. There's a lot of fog. Now, due to the vastness of the terrain, the team has currently focused on an aerial search to try and narrow down on the actual accident sites. In addition, attempts are being made to track the phones of those on board, while also deploying essential satellite facilities. The ground search by the mountain rescue team will continue, and really, as an assurance to the family, this is very important information because I've picked up a lot of announcements that we've ceased the rescue operation. As a government, we have a commitment to continue with this throughout until we are able to reach these people.
It was destined for Wilson Airport, and it was decided at some point to divert to Jomo Kenyatta, and we suspect that was because of the weather at the time.
All right, now that is a story that continues to develop, and of course we shall be bringing you the latest details as and when we get them here on KBC Channel 1 News. And earlier on, Victor, we had a story on war on graft.
Exactly. And it was to the effect that after a case filed by activist Okia Omtata, now the Employment and Labor Relations Court had thrown out the directive by the head of public service that all heads of finance and procurement should step aside. Of course, heads of finance and procurement in government institutions should step aside pending investigations and submit themselves to fresh vetting.
And from that, we're asking you tonight on a big question: do you support the court order suspending the circular on vetting by head of public service? Do you support the court order suspending the circular on vetting by head of public service? Our SMS line is 22162. My Twitter handle at @ZaBrenda.
And mine is at Muyakane, and feel free to use our very own Twitter handle, which is at KBC Channel 1, and we'll be happy to sample your feedback live on air.
All right, I'll ask to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll be heading straight to Engine Behind the Power, and of course tonight it's all about sign language interpretation in Kenya. We shall be speaking to Henry Mureithi Masharia, all that after the short break.
The Easy Banking app is your bank anywhere, anytime. Everything you do at the bank is on Easy Banking app. You can use the app to send money, pay bills, buy and pay for goods and services, access easy loans, check the status of your account, save for future goals, and so much more. And now you can enjoy an even better banking experience with the just updated Easy Banking app. Loaded with a great suite of powerful features, so you're always in control of your banking lifestyle wherever you are. Download the Easy Banking app from Google Play Store or App Store and link your Equity Bank account. If you do not have an Equity Bank account, open one hapo from the app. Easy Banking. Experience convenience in life.
SportPesa Super Cup has come to Kenya. Kenya's own Gor, AFC, Sharks, and Kakamega Homeboys are getting ready to take on Tanzania's finest, Simba, Yanga, Singida, and JKU. The champion will face one of EPL greats, Everton FC, at Goodison Park. Don't miss another moment of football history. SportPesa Super Cup from the 3rd to 10th of June.
I'ma go out fighting.
Did he have to die?
You really will never be able to understand.
Najua Kenya alifanya si poa kukidnap Tiffany, but alikuwa anataka tu niachiliwe.
Kamau, this determination of yours will take you very far.
Never.
No kinyo kamenya ate uradiro na mundu we na merigo.
Sometimes I feel like you don't give me the chance to actually prove myself.
This life will not give you what you want to get while you are lying in your bed and craving for things. You have to go for it and forcibly do it. Jill, are you alright?
Not while you're breathing.
All right, welcome back, and it's time for Engine Behind the Power, where every Wednesday we bring to you people who have been making headlines in terms of transforming the nation in different ways. And tonight we're privileged to be having Henry Masharia, who deals a lot with sign language interpretation. Of course, when we began the bulletin, our sign language interpreter for the bulletin is Susan Thuku, and now Henry sort of takes over because we shall be doing a lot of talking and a lot of sign language interpretation during this interview. Henry, karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
So when you say thank you, you do this?
Yeah, you do thank you. That's the sign for thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I will try also to get
to learn a bit of it. Yeah.
To learn
to learn a bit of it. To learn, like you're picking it and taking it to your brain. That's
to my
learn.
Brain?
Yes.
Okay, to learn a bit of it.
Yes, to learn a bit.
It's not so hard. It's really not so hard.
Yes.
Can you talk to us about sign language interpretation?
Yeah. To begin with, I have been a sign language interpreter before, but I really right now cannot put myself into sign language interpretation. But what I do is that I work with the deaf. But like you said, my friend Susan is a good interpreter, and we have sign language interpretation. But probably why I moved from sign language interpretation is because the issues of persons with disabilities, and mostly even the deaf, are not only limited to sign language interpretation. So I moved now to another area, and that is where, as Detail International, we work in terms of counseling the deaf, counseling the parents of the deaf, consultation on where to have the deaf taken to schools. And because the deaf are diverse, we are in a position where we also do research so that we can be able to give and help in implementing of policies that are already set by the government on including the persons with disabilities in Kenya. Yes.
But the sign language, it's people say it is like we have 42 tribes in the country.
Yes. Okay,
I'm really trying not to do sign language because they might be misleading. Yeah, so I really need your help here because Susan has handed it offer to you.
Okay.
Susan is actually on. Thank you so much. That's my that is my producer.
Yes.
Moi is telling me Susan is actually on. Susan, thank you so much. Now, we have 42 tribes in this country.
Yes.
And sign language, like our other viewers, are sort of like the forgotten language. Is that really true?
Yes, it is. And just like when we started, I say that I moved from the area of sign language interpretation for this reason. For example, most of the time, when we bring in the issue of sign language, we do it because it's a policy. For example, all TV stations now have sign language interpretation. And mark you, it is in the smallest area possible that most of the deaf may not even be able to see it.
So are you saying that when you talk about the smallest area that probably the sign language interpretation or interpreters have been given, you need like a big space? Because right now, as you can see Susan Thuku on the bottom right of your screen right now, she's the one who's doing the sign language interpretation. It's like you're saying that the space that our sign language interpreters have been given, it's small. You need a bigger space.
Watching TV should be comfortable. You should actually sit and relax at your home and be able to see the person who is giving you the news. And probably the question that we should ask ourselves, for example, is if we interchange such that we have Brenda go to the small screen and now the interpreter Susan go to the bigger screen, how would we feel as the general public? Would we be comfortable with it?
Okay, so that's the reason as to why you feel like you're the forgotten generation also?
I feel like most of the things that we are now doing for persons with disabilities are just to implement some policies that have been set. But for us to be able to integrate the persons with disabilities fully, then we have to start from a point of, first of all, understanding them. Then understanding what is their limitations, then understanding how to accommodate them, so that in the end it is not a fight of or a push and pull between policies that are there and what companies want to achieve. So that in the end, for example, now you will find that most of the companies are working very hard to make sure that the 10% of employment for persons with disability is met. But you know, that is regardless of whether they believe in the persons with disabilities or not. So when they are bringing them in the companies, it's not that they believe in them, no. They just want to meet the set policies. But now Detail International wants to bring in another area so that when you are employing the people, you are not doing it because it's a policy. It's first of all, you believe. Because if we continue in the fight or a push and pull because there are demonstrations and because we have set policies, we may never understand that these people have possibilities. Number two, we might limit the persons with disabilities to policies even in their thinking, so that even for them it is only because the government has said. But for the children with disabilities, when will they be in school and think about the possibilities they have? And for myself, I think that no person should define what possibility is to a person. So if the opportunities are then open for them, regardless of whether they have a disability or not, then that would be the best way possible.
And there's always been this saying that disability is not inability. It is a saying that it's always said every time you meet someone with disability, or any time you're trying to give an example of how you need to work hard, and people end up saying disability is not inability. Is it a phrase that has been just being used without being implemented?
I would say yes. And if we could ask ourselves, mostly as citizens of Kenya, is how many of us want to stay with a person with disability for long? Or do we just want to go and drop coins and leave? Would you actually sit down with this person with disability and be with them? If you went and met a deaf person, would you actually want to sit and be with them, so that even if you do not understand sign language, you could probably sit down and write with them and have a communication? Can you go to an autistic person and want to hug them? You know, that's the question that we should be having. But if we are only using this as a phrase, then in the end, we are only focusing on set policies. We do not have full integration of the persons with disabilities. And until when we go to that point where we start taking the persons with disability as a person first, before the disability, then we may not achieve that.
Actually, Henry, I was actually going to get there. Just two things that you've touched on that I really needed to ask you.
Yes.
I'll start with the first one. The first one is that there's a lot of concern from persons with disability that when people look at them, they look at them with that, you know, the pity.
Pity.
With a lot of pity, like, oh yeah, I need to do this. You want to cross the road and all that, and they feel so bad. They're like, you don't need to look at me that way. I'm just like you.
Yes.
Is that the situation also with people probably with the hearing disability?
Yeah, that is, and it is for all disabilities, if I would say. And the reason, like I said when we started, why I moved from sign language interpretation so that I can now work on the other issues is I have been probably privileged to have few friends with disabilities who hate that pity. because this pity does not only destroy our attitude towards the persons with disabilities, but it also destroys the persons with disabilities themselves. It limits their thinking. It makes them feel that for them to achieve something, then in the end they must be assisted by another person.
Okay.
And it is probably what we need to go above so that they can also achieve, just like I do not want to say the normal, I would say the non-disabled persons.
Okay.
Yes.
And also the other question I wanted to ask, which you touched on a bit, is the fact that you're saying that not so many Kenyans can be able to communicate with people, with persons with disability. Are you also trying to say that there is need also probably for the government to ensure that the academic curriculum is actually is composed or probably sign language, because we all need to communicate. When you walk in the streets of Nairobi, you find that people who can't hear, people who can't talk are also part of the traders. So is it so important for every Kenyan to learn probably sign language interpretation?
I would say no. I would say no, because I would say that there are enough policies to integrate the deaf persons. But there is another thing. You know, we cannot legislate attitude. We cannot legislate love and compassion. And that is what is missing in Kenya. The laws are there. Institutions know that they need to have interpreters with them. But then the question would be, how many, even those ones for the government, have a person, for example, if I go to the deaf area, have an interpreter, so that when a deaf person gets into a reception, who can sign to them. Their buildings and infrastructure, so that they can accommodate the physical impaired persons. How many have all that? If we still have special schools, meaning that these people should go to separate schools, all those things do not need legislation. Mm-hmm. They need people to change the attitude.
Okay.
And now the problem is that is something we cannot legislate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's talk about education.
Yes.
Probably has the government put a lot of effort in addressing some of the challenges that persons with disability face in terms of probably the braille machines for learning, because some of them are too expensive, and there's some people who come from poor background and they cannot even afford. Has the government done enough to ensure that these people are well taken care of when it comes to education?
No, it has not. It has not. For sure, it has not. Even when you go to the training, which is one that I had when I went to Kenyatta University to learn special needs education, what I am living with in school is not even enough to go and train the deaf person, because the systems and what has been set and the units that I have cannot accommodate the deaf person as they should be. So starting from the point where the teachers do not have this training, to the point where for the blind and the kind of the equipment that is needed, the government is still using the old systems, while there are new technologies that have changed with time. Every time there are new technologies to make sure that it makes life easier for them. Mm-hmm. But the government is not doing that. So and also, like I said, the government has not at any one point thought of bringing children with disabilities to learn together with those ones with no disabilities. Mm-hmm. Such that for a deaf person they have to go, for example, when you are in Kiambu or Nairobi, mm-hmm. you have to go to a place at Kamboi.
Okay.
So you go to a school for the deaf and you find a small kid, mm-hmm. probably 6 years old. Mm-hmm. They have to go to Kamboi school for the deaf, which is very far from home. Mm-hmm. So a kid who is that small starts staying away from the parents from the early age, mm-hmm. and at no point mm-hmm. will they ever stay at home until probably they are now going to college.
Okay. And when you talk about parents, there's some parents who've been accused of actually hiding their kids who have disability.
They have.
How do you reach to such kind of parents?
They have, and as Detail International, it is what we want to look in, but look at it very sensitively. To start with, I am a parent of a deaf child. I have just given birth to a child. Then I go home with them. Probably after some time, I realize that my child has a problem. So I go back to the hospitals, and I have to be sent to a specific hospital that will go and check what is the problem with my child. Mm-hmm. When I finish, they tell me that my child is deaf and that I should go look for a school for the deaf. First of all, I am in shock. We do not have counselors to talk to these parents. The second thing, there is nothing you have told me I would do as a parent except go look for a school for this child.
Okay.
Is the life of this child only limited to a school that is that far away? So by the time this parent recovers and starts about herself and the child, time has moved on.
Okay.
And some of these are from poor backgrounds.
Okay.
Number two, some of the mothers, even their husbands have left them. You know, we are still there where husbands leave the mothers just because you have a child with disability.
Okay.
So in the end, it is not by choice sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've run out of time, Henry, and the camera on my right. You know, right now I'm so keen
Yes,
in terms of the movement that my hands make.
Yes.
So I'll keep still. The camera on my right is your camera.
Yes.
In like 2 seconds, because we've run out of time, in like 2 seconds, your message to parents with persons with disability, of course, a message of hope to persons with disability.
I will say this, that like I said when we started, no person should be limited because of disability or any type of thing. So for me, I think that it is time that we change the attitude towards the persons with disabilities. We should stop giving them pity and being sorry for them. First of all, give them the opportunity and let them do all the best that they can, but do not define what possibility is for them. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. Do this.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Henry, and thank you, Susan Thuku, for always doing a good job in terms of ensuring that our other audience are well taken care of when it comes to ensuring that they are also informed as to what is making the headlines in Kenya's any other story that affects them. So right now, I need to pave way for my colleague Victor Muyakane, who's up in the other side of the studio, ready with the business to bring us up to date, who's been making headlines in the business sector. Thank you so much, Henry, also for joining us.
Thank you so much.
SportPesa Super Cup imeingia nchini Kenya. Wenyeji Gor, AFC, Sharks na Kakamega Homeboys wanajiandaa kuchuana na timu za Tanzania, Simba, Yanga, Singida na JKU. Mshindi atapata nafasi ya kucheza dhidi ya Everton FC ugani Goodison Park. Usikose nafasi nyingine ya historia. SportPesa Super Cup kuanzia tarehe 3 hadi 10 mwezi Juni mwaka huu.
Welcome to the business news. Now, the National Assembly has begun debating this year's national budget projected at 2.53 trillion shillings. The Kenya Revenue Authority will be tasked with collecting 1.74 trillion shillings. Appropriation, of course, in aid is 180 billion shillings and grants are at 47 billion shillings. The government will be expected to raise the remaining 562.75 billion shillings through debt. Members of Parliament warned the National Treasury against excess borrowing that could hurt growth going forward.
In the midst of rising debt levels, Kenya finds herself yet in a likely murky situation to finance the 2.53 trillion shillings budget. According to the Budget and Appropriations Committee, revenue collection by the Kenya Revenue Authority is expected to stagnate at 19.6% of the GDP, similar to the 2017-2018 financial year. Ordinary revenues is estimated at 1.743 trillion shillings, while appropriations in aid 179.95 billion shillings.
Rehabilitation of roads in Nakuru East 10 million, rehabilitation of roads in Bahati constituency, Naivasha constituency and Gilgil constituencies in Nakuru County 10 million shillings each. In Bungoma County, the county be given Kenya shillings 100 million for repair of following roads: Tarbo, Naitiri, Sikendu Road, C44. The road covers 3 constituencies, that is Tarbo, Tongaren and Kiminini. Construction of Emia Road in Kopsiro area to help in movement of agricultural goods,
including expected foreign grants of 47.037 billion shillings. The government will have 1.970 trillion shillings, leaving a deficit of 562.74 billion shillings to be bridged by debt. In the coming financial year, taxpayers will spend 870.6 billion shillings on debt repayments and interest, an amount which has surged 221.2 billion shillings from the 2017-2018 financial year. This is equivalent to half of the domestic revenues, as MPs raised the red flag.
We are cautioning the government that even as we continue borrowing from outside and internally, let's bear in mind that, Mr. Speaker, basic principles of public debt management demand that you need to balance what we call intergenerational interest in terms of public borrowing, so that we don't overburden future generations in paying these debts, which we are taking today, Mr. Speaker. So it is important that even though every time Treasury keeps on saying we are within the international indicators, Mr. Speaker, we want to bear in mind that Kenya is a growing country and we must take care of our future generations. We don't want to overburden our children paying loans which were taken by us, and then they will not be able to move as a country that time, Mr. Speaker.
The legislators propose, among other measures, a reduction in zero-rated products, broadening the tax base to cover nil and non-filers, ensuring suppliers are tax compliant, cut cargo diversion and improve cargo systems. Similarly, ministries, state departments and agencies plagued with graft have seen their budgetary allocations cut.
The National Youth Service has lost 8.24 billion Kenya shillings. Other MDAs that have been mentioned adversely in both public investments and public accounts reports and other reports or be under investigation by investigative agencies. Honorable Speaker, we have also made effort to deduct funds allocated to them and reallocate the same resources to other critical areas.
Among the institutions to suffer budget cuts include 150 million shillings from Warma and 500 million shillings from the Lake Basin Development Authority. Ronald Willie, NewsHour Business.
Thank you, Ronald. Scientists are calling for increased funding for sweet potato research to facilitate the development of high-yielding varieties. The experts reckon that sweet potatoes are economically viable and have the potential to substitute maize if well cultivated.
Farmers in the country have mostly concentrated on the cultivation of crops like maize, beans and Irish potatoes, while giving little or no attention to other crops. Frequent droughts due to climate change and an invasion of deadly pests like the fall armyworm have put the country's food security at risk. Scientists are now suggesting growing of other crops like the sweet potato to relieve the pressure on maize.
For sweet potato varieties, also potato is the second most important crop in Kenya, but both of these crops need more attention because they really can contribute to tackling the high prices of food, the problems in maize. There's a real need for diversification and to go with these crops that are very short duration.
They are, however, calling for more funding to research, noting that the sweet potato is more nutritious and more economically viable since it can be grown more than twice each year.
51 individuals dying every day. That is not even mentioned on TV or any radio. And yet people are dying because vitamin A deficiency is a silent killer. Now, sweet potato can address that when we use orange flesh sweet potato because it is high in vitamin A.
They encouraged farmers to grow new varieties that are disease-free and can withstand extreme weather conditions.
Viruses that have hit maize recently You have the red mite outbreak, which is affecting many crops, but fortunately, these pest and disease problems are not affecting sweet potato. So sweet potato is increasingly important, I think, in many different parts of the food system.
International Potato Center and the Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization have developed 5 new sweet potato varieties for small-scale farmers.
Now, did you know that you can rear red worms to produce organic compost and avoid using synthetic fertilizer? Well, the practice is dubbed vermiculture and is being used at the Nakukalas model farm in Turkana County to make manure that retains moisture. Our reporter Carol Jenga interacted with a group of women who are driving adoption of organic farming in Turkana and files the following report.
Turkana County for many years has been synonymous with hunger, banditry, castle rustling and poverty, but that is slowly changing, especially with the discovery of crude oil in the area. The community is diversifying from livestock rearing to crop farming powered by drip irrigation. This is Nakukalas model farm in Turkana County. On this 3-acre model farm, there are high-value crops such as lettuce, fruits, vegetables and indigenous trees.
We have other crops and many different trees in our nursery. We have 5 target species in our nursery which are all indigenous, but then many others that we're trialing to see how they'll do in this environment.
The model farm run by Barefoot International is using organic gardening techniques which use ways that maintain the good health and life of the soil. The community collects food waste from the tallow oil camp which they decompose to make organic fertilizer.
And what I have in my hand here is the soil that you'd find in here in Turkana, okay? What we've been able to do this year with this soil organically is quite incredible, okay? As you can see around the farm here, with 1 year of growth, there's a lot of different things happening. So what we do is we turn a lot of the food waste from the oil camp up here into compost, which is a natural process of turning that food waste back into natural, healthy soil.
At the model farm, red worms dubbed red wiggles, which are fed with any kind of organic waste such as leaves and rotten fruits. The red worms are reared for the purpose of fast-tracking the decomposing process as well as ensuring the manure is of high quality. The women group in the region say the project has earned them cash to sustain their livelihoods.
Tumeona ametusaidia, ametuinua katika mapato na ile vile hatukuwa naweza, lakini sasa tumechoweza. Pengine tumepata chakula, hata pesa tumepatako.
Tangu tuanze mpaka sasa watoto wetu hata wenye walikuwa tumeshindwa tutapelekaje shule, watasomaje, lakini tumejaribu, tumewasukuma mpaka wamefika mahali wamefika kwa sababu ya hii mradi.
The model farm is mimicking a forest ecosystem with multi-level of growth as grouping the crops reduces water waste and weed development while ensuring maximum use of nutrients. Additionally, he says it is important to protect the plants using organic gardening pest controls as opposed to introducing toxic chemicals to your organic garden. Caroline Jenga reporting for NewsHour Business.